Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Second Impressions, Estound's web series where we break down real questions about marketing and provide business leaders with insiders' insight on important issues. I'm Trevor Heaton. I've got my colleagues Greg Bond and Erik Wolf with me today, and these guys are ready to tackle any marketing question you can throw at them. How are we doing, guys?
Ready to tackle some stuff, man.
Ready to tackle?
Yeah, we're ready. Let's do this.
All right, so today we got a question from Prasad N. He's an IT sales executive, and his question is, we hired a reputable SEO company here in Denver, and they have not been doing a good job. We're 9 months into a 12-month contract, and we're not getting any new leads. How do you hire the right company? Greg, you are the SEO expert. Let's let you kick this off.
Yeah, so this is kind of a different spin on a question we had gotten previously, which is representative of honestly a lot of conversations we have, and when people are looking around for a marketing agency, this is often what is incentivizing and moving them in this direction to get away from somebody and looking for somebody else. It's a really tough question, but I think there are some good answers in terms of how to shop around for this. But it starts with really understanding what SEO is and what it does and what it can do. So like that's the hard part, is we have to explain SEO from a completely new perspective. And it requires kind of unlearning all the things that you think SEO is, which most people would say has something to do with keywords, and it has something to do with like the titles on your site and making a lot of content and stuff like that. And so what we have to do is kind of unlearn what I would refer to as bad habits. SEO has really become this process of building your website's authority online so that you become, in many ways, a brand digitally that is more representative of what most brands are in the real world. It's just that they never spent the time, money, and energy to make that happen, to make that conversion complete. Instead, people keep going to events. They keep doing things, with trade groups, industry trade groups. All that stuff is great, but then they don't put that same amount of time and effort into the digital realm. And that's really what's required for building your SEO program from the start. And when you commit those sorts of resources where you're building this community, you're engaging with people in a variety of platforms, let's say Google My Business, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Yelp, wherever it happens to be, Nextdoor even, then what happens is Google sees this activity. They see this flurry of activity. They see people checking out your website. They see the interactions and how these links are all structured and set up and feeding back into your website. And that's how you start to build this authority. And advertising even helps too. So Google's official stance is that when you do like AdWords advertising, that it doesn't contribute, at least directly, to your SEO. But in many ways,
that's the real stance.
Exactly. But really what happens is when you get more people to come to your website, you often have to pay for it in one way or another. You have to pay for it on Facebook. So if you have a Facebook page, you might have 2 people that have liked your page that see a post, but if you put $10 behind it, you'll get 200 people. And that's what happens when you start to put money behind something. You get more eyeballs. And that equates to getting more traffic and like more of that signal to Google that this activity is occurring. And so even though Google denies this direct relationship with conducting AdWords, at the very least, what happens is you're accelerating this process of learning and driving people to your website and learning what is working and what isn't. And then that's what you could use to seed the investments, the time that you're going to put into organic build out. So for example, if you notice a post on Facebook that has to do with, let's use an IT company as an example, Office 365 is clearly going to be a huge deal. and it's something around Office 365 there, and you're doing some advertising about Office 365 and long tail keywords on AdWords, what you're going to do is you're going to learn a ton about what's working around that and what isn't. And then you have the ability to build out content around those topics that you realize will perform with a paid approach. And so that's where it's going to be very fruitful to invest organically as well. And then you could see if you could basically start to build a richer ecosystem of information around that topic. And that's how you build authority. So SEO isn't about the keywords that you're using. It's about getting information and leveraging it in a way that you're trying to basically accommodate a marketplace and make yourself listened to and providing useful information to be listened to. That's really what does it. And people don't want to hear that answer because they want tips and tricks. They don't want to hear about how hard it is and how much time it takes to get results from an organic strategy, because organic strategies are long-term. They're not like with cost per click in advertising that you're going to do, you could get that performance overnight. So it accelerates that process. But Google doesn't change that quickly, and it doesn't change the way you look that quickly to them. And so it really is about a long-term investment that pays dividends. It doesn't provide that overnight success that cost per click will, but it does provide more scalability because you can continue to invest the same amount over time, and you should be getting more and more returns, just like any other investment that pays dividends. And so I know that was a lot of talking, but hopefully that could reorient the way you are viewing SEO as it relates to your business. And then when you understand what that really is, I think you have a better ability to see what companies are going to be able to provide you with the services that are required to build that authority with you and to teach you, to educate you so you know what is involved in those processes. And so that way, when you're making that purchasing decision with that company, you know exactly what you're getting.
Yeah, so they're 9 months into a 12-month contract. So when should they start seeing results? Are they seeing something I know they don't want to see, but in a realistic world, when would they start seeing these results?
Well, and the other thing that we have to be clear on is what do results look like? And what was put in this question wasn't in any way like it was a very specific thing. It was leads and results from an SEO campaign, depending on what kind of business you are and depending on what the searches look like and things like that. Leads might not be the result that your SEO investment drives, and you might have to be okay with that. You might have to look at SEO a little bit differently. And Greg kicked this off really, really well by saying that you've got to unlearn everything that you think that you know. And one of those things is that SEO investment and leads are necessarily a one-to-one relationship, because depending on your business, really they may not be at all. And that's a really hard pill, I think, for some folks to swallow. And it goes back to a topic that I think we talk a lot about here, which is making sure that what you're that what you think you're shopping for and the result that you're looking for are the same thing. Because if Prasad wants leads, then I think that there are a lot of ways that he can get leads and potentially get them more in a more expedited way than SEO would provide them. If what he wants is to build a sustainable foundation for his business online, then SEO is a great investment and something that I would advocate to most anybody. And so it still goes back to that thing.
The hardest part there is I just don't think SEO as a sole strategy is going to be able to lift the lead category on its own, especially within that period of time. clearly the focus is on the very front end of the funnel. And you could be getting results in the meantime that are more related to people who are in the middle and end of the funnel. They see this communication, this authority that's being built up. It could be leading to more traffic. It could be leading to better quality of leads. It could be leading to more people getting through the sales process, maybe perhaps more closing. So there's a lot of ways that SEO could be affecting the overall sales without necessarily providing that one component of lead gen. Because I think there are better ways to probably approach the lead gen specifically. SEO could be amplifying and accelerating everything else, and he could be overlooking that, which is another, you have to really look at the entire sales process and understand where you're losing people and track that over time to really know if you're getting some sort of performance, even if it's not the exact performance that you anticipated getting.
Right. Because Prasad's thought on this is he's not getting any leads. So his assumption or his thought is they didn't hire the right SEO company, even though he mentions they're a reputable company. So
a lot of times these people are doing the job that they said they were going to do. Or they may have oversold themselves a little bit and kind of promised everything under the sun, which is possible. We have found that our most loyal relationships, the people that we really click with and have long-term relationships with, are the people we spend the most time educating on these topics. And so really, if he's feeling this way, then I would say that clearly the education factor has been a failure point with this vendor that they're using.
Right. You made a good point too. The Prasad is a salesperson. So he's looking at the goal and the metrics of leads. So other departments and other people in the company may be looking at different metrics of growth.
Could be traffic, could be awareness. And so from, and it's an oversimplification, but sales guys, the stereotype is I want more leads and I want them now. And where marketing can help that is, I mean, obviously short term is obviously a factor, and it's and solving a short term problem is something that marketing companies need to be good at when they engage with somebody. But on the flip side of that, we see our real job as being not just achieving those short-term goals, but creating a thriving ecosystem of success that benefits the organization long-term, so that the next time we're looking for leads, it's not that hard to get them.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the difference in approach, and where some companies will come in and say, oh yeah, you're gonna get all that and a bag of chips, and it's not always true.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we would love to talk with somebody like Prasad and his leadership about what they're doing and their goals. But did they hire the wrong company?
Maybe not.
Yeah, it's a toss-up. I'm not sure. The only way I would be able to know is if I had a chance to look at their analytics. Like I said, the one failure point that I could definitely identify is that they've clearly failed to educate Prasad,
right,
and like have that mutual relationship of trading information and feeling comfortable with what each other's doing.
Right. So I think next step, that's a great way to wrap this up. And I think next step would be for Prasad, if they do want to evaluate more, we could dig deeper into their analytics. We could look more at their model, their business plan, their strategy, and provide some recommendations. They still have a lot of time left on their contract. Well, not a lot, 4 months. But yeah, we'd be happy to talk with you, Prasad, and your team, give you some insights, some advice. Anything else you guys would add?
I got nothing. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Sitting in front of this camera, I just can't help but notice how enormous my forehead is. I feel like a Jewish Herman Munster.
It's a good thing you got the beard to offset it.
Right.
It's leaving your head and going onto your face.
This is the thing with getting older, is these foreheads just keep getting bigger, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm noticing the power alleys going back even further. So,
right.
All right, guys, I appreciate your time, your insight. Join us on another episode. Watch our foreheads, our power alleys grow. If you have a question, that you would like for these guys to answer, email us at secondimpressions@estound.com, and we'd be glad to answer your question. Anything you have related to marketing. Appreciate you joining us. Tune in again. Be well.
Thank you.
Later.